The 1990s did not romanticize destruction, it seduced it. This was a decade obsessed with couples and partnerships that did not build futures but erased them. Lovers, criminals, partners, and rivals whose chemistry poisoned every space they occupied. These duos did not simply collide with the world, they scorched it. What follows is not a celebration of chaos but an autopsy of it. Number 10. Mickey Knox and Mallory Knox, Natural-Born Killers, 1994. Mickey and Mallory Knox are not portrayed as criminals who happen to be in love. They are depicted as a single destructive organism split into two bodies. Their relationship functions like an accelerant. Alone, they would still be dangerous, but together they turn every environment into a combustion chamber. Violence is not a consequence of their bond. It is the language through which their bond exists. What truly burns the world around them is not the sheer scale of their killing spree, but how easily institutions collapse in their presence. Police lose authority. Media loses ethics. Therapy becomes performance. The justice system becomes a stage. Mickey and Mallory expose how quickly society abandons morality when spectacle offers ratings and profit. Their murders become episodes. Their faces become branding. The film presents them as both monsters and mirrors. They do not invent cruelty. They amplify what already exists. The public cheers them. The press canonizes them. Even captivity fails to neutralize their influence. The prison riot is not an escape attempt, but proof that the system itself is flammable. Their love is absolute and non-negotiable. There is no growth, no regret, and no inward reflection. That refusal to evolve is the most frightening element. Mickey and Mallory do not burn out. They burn forward. Everything they touch becomes part of the inferno, including the culture that claims to condemn them. Number 9. Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield, Pulp Fiction, 1994. Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield destroy the world quietly. There are no manifestos or grand speeches. Their devastation arrives disguised as routine. They walk into rooms already convinced of their authority and leave behind silence, blood, and moral vacuum. The casual tone of their violence is what makes it corrosive. Their partnership thrives on repetition. Jobs blend together. Death becomes procedural. Conversation fills the space where conscience should exist. Jules quotes scripture while executing strangers. Vincent shrugs at consequence until it arrives suddenly and without ceremony. Their dynamic shows how normalization is more dangerous than rage. Every location they occupy becomes unstable. An apartment becomes an execution chamber. A car becomes a coffin. A diner becomes a philosophical battleground. They do not seek destruction, yet it follows them because they never question the system they serve. Jules briefly glimpses an exit. He senses meaning in survival and speaks of transformation. But that awareness does not undo the damage already done. Vincent never seeks meaning at all. He drifts forward anesthetized by habit until the system consumes him. Together they represent two ends of the same moral collapse: reflection without repair and action without thought. Their legacy is not chaos but erosion. They show how the world burns when violence becomes a lifestyle rather than an event. Number 8. Clarence Worley and Alabama Whitman, True Romance, 1993. Clarence and Alabama begin their story wrapped in pop culture fantasy. Their love feels reckless but sincere, driven by movies, music, and the belief that passion can substitute for planning. What follows is not intentional destruction but inevitable escalation. Each act of devotion pulls them deeper into danger. Unlike other duos, they do not seek power or fame. They seek freedom. That pursuit blinds them to consequence. Every attempt to secure their future only widens the circle of violence. Gangsters, law enforcement, and bystanders are drawn into a conflict that neither Clarence nor Alabama fully understands until it is too late. Their relationship is built on loyalty rather than domination. That loyalty becomes lethal when challenged. Alabama fights not for control but survival. Clarence fights not for justice but love. Their sincerity makes the fallout more tragic because it is earned through belief rather than malice. What burns around them is innocence. The idea that love can exist outside consequence is stripped away piece by piece. They survive, but survival comes at a cost paid by everyone else. Their story leaves a quiet wreckage rather than a spectacle. It asks a dangerous question and refuses to answer it comfortably. How much destruction can love justify before it becomes indistinguishable from violence itself? Number 7. David McCall and Nicole Walker, Fear, 1996. David McCall and Nicole Walker represent a different kind of cinematic destruction. There is no crime spree and no grand ideology. What burns here is domestic space itself. Bedrooms, schools, and family homes become hostile territory as obsession slowly replaces affection. David's charm is not accidental, it is engineered. He studies vulnerability and mirrors it back as devotion until control feels like love. Nicole does not choose chaos, she is eased into it. What begins as teenage romance becomes surveillance, intimidation, and isolation. David does not need weapons to destroy lives. He weaponizes access. He knows where Nicole lives, where she feels safe, and who she trusts. That proximity makes the damage intimate and relentless. The true devastation is generational. Parents are humiliated, authority collapses, and the illusion of suburban safety disintegrates. David's refusal to accept rejection transforms love into entitlement. Every boundary becomes an insult. Every attempt to escape escalates the threat. Their dynamic exposes how obsession thrives in silence. No one believes danger until it announces itself violently. By then, the damage is irreversible. David and Nicole do not burn the world loudly. They burn it from the inside out, leaving scars that outlast the relationship itself. Number 6. Thelma Dickinson and Louise Sawyer. Thelma and Louise, 1991. Thelma and Louise do not begin as destroyers. They begin as women suffocating under expectations they did not choose. Their journey becomes destructive because the world refuses to offer them a safe exit. Each attempt to reclaim control is met with threat, ridicule, or violence. What follows is not rebellion for its own sake, but a refusal to return to silence. Their bond transforms fear into momentum. Together they discover agency, but that agency exists only outside the law. Every mile forward burns bridges behind them. Jobs, marriages, reputations, and futures collapse as the road narrows toward inevitability. What makes their destruction profound is its clarity. They understand the cost. They choose it anyway. The world they leave behind is not innocent. It is complicit. The systems meant to protect them failed long before the canyon's edge. Their final act is not escape, but authorship. They decide how the story ends. Everything around them burns because it was already built to consume them. Thelma and Louise do not torch the world out of cruelty. They do it because survival within it has become impossible. Number 5. Early Grace and Adele Corners, California, 1993. Early Grace and Adele Corners are destruction disguised as hospitality. They do not announce danger, they invite it in. Early's violence is casual, instinctive, and deeply personal. Adele's loyalty is blind and unwavering. Together, they create a moving epicenter of threat that pulls everyone nearby into its gravity. What makes this duo devastating is proximity. They share cars, diners, and motel rooms with people who do not understand the risk until it is too late. Early does not chase chaos, he carries it. Adele enables it not through malice, but dependence. Her need to belong outweighs moral clarity. Their relationship thrives on isolation. Outsiders are either witnesses or victims. As the journey continues, tension replaces curiosity, and trust evaporates. The road trip becomes a slow burn countdown where danger feels constant but invisible. Early and Adele do not burn the world in spectacle. They scorch individual lives quietly, permanently, and without remorse. Their legacy is unease, the realization that evil does not always arrive screaming. Sometimes it smiles, asks for a ride, and never lets you out. Number 4. Detective William Somerset and Detective David Mills, C7N, 1995. Somerset and Mills do not choose destruction. They inherit it. Their partnership is forged inside a city already rotting from neglect and cruelty. Somerset carries decades of moral exhaustion. Mills brings urgency and anger sharpened by idealism. Together, they enter a case designed not to be solved but to be endured. What burns around them is certainty. Every step forward erodes the belief that order can be restored through procedure or intelligence. Somerset understands the trap early. Mills refuses to accept it. That refusal becomes the accelerant. The killer does not merely murder victims. He engineers outcomes. He weaponizes the detectives themselves. Their dynamic is defined by imbalance. Somerset's restraint collides with Mills' impulse. Each weakness amplifies the other. The investigation becomes a slow psychological bleed where empathy is punished and patience is irrelevant. By the time the final revelation arrives, the damage is already internalized. The world burns not through spectacle but inevitability. The city remains unchanged. Justice becomes symbolic at best. What is destroyed is hope. Somerset survives but does not escape. Mills loses everything that anchored him to restraint. Their partnership proves that even moral intent can be manipulated into catastrophe. Number 3. Catherine Trammell and Nick Curran, Basic Instinct, 1992. Catherine Trammell and Nick Curran are locked in a duel where attraction is the primary weapon. Their relationship is built on mutual provocation. Truth is irrelevant. Power is everything. Catherine does not hide danger. She displays it confidently, daring others to challenge her control. Nick enters convinced he can manage desire professionally. That illusion collapses quickly. Every interaction destabilizes him further. Authority erodes, ethics blur. The investigation transforms into a personal obsession where boundaries cease to exist. Catherine thrives in this ambiguity. Nick disintegrates within it. What burns around them is credibility. The justice system becomes unreliable. Testimony becomes performance. Evidence bends under psychological pressure. Their dynamic exposes how easily desire corrodes objectivity. Catherine does not need to destroy Nick physically. She dismantles him psychologically. Their partnership leaves no clear resolution. That uncertainty is the final damage. Nothing is proven, nothing is healed. The world they inhabit becomes permanently unstable because no truth survives prolonged proximity to power and seduction. Number 2. Seth Gecko and Richie Gecko. From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996. Seth and Richie Gecko are destruction bound by blood and denial. Seth operates on rules. He believes violence can be contained, disciplined, and transactional. Richie exists without filters. Desire, impulse, and cruelty surface without warning. Together they move through the world like a vehicle with one competent driver and one hand permanently yanking the wheel into oncoming traffic. What truly burns around them is time. Every delay Seth grants his brother multiplies casualties. Every rationalization becomes permission. Seth tells himself that loyalty is survival, that control is possible, that one last job will end the nightmare. Richie turns each of those lies into fresh chaos. Hostages are not leveraged to Richie. They are objects. Plans do not unravel because of bad luck, but because Richie cannot coexist with restraint. The infamous tonal shift of the story does not come out of nowhere. It reveals the truth Seth refuses to face. There was never a clean escape. There was never a version of the future where Richie survived and Seth remained human. The carnage is not supernatural in origin. It is psychological inevitability finally allowed to fully surface. The world burns because loyalty delays necessary endings. By the time Seth understands that love has become liability, the damage is irreversible. Their partnership is a warning written in blood. Some bonds do not redeem. They only postpone collapse until it becomes catastrophic. Number 1. Neil McCauley and Vincent Hanna. Heat, 1995. Neil McCauley and Vincent Hanna are not enemies in the traditional sense. They are parallel lives traveling toward the same terminus. One steals with discipline and restraint. The other hunts with obsession and precision. Both define themselves entirely by the work. Everything else exists only in the margins. What burns around them is not morality, but balance. Relationships erode quietly. Families fracture off-screen. The city becomes collateral shaped by two men who refuse to disengage. Their famous conversation is not a threat exchange, it is a confession. Each acknowledges that if faced with a choice between connection and purpose, purpose will win every time. Their partnership exists without partnership. They shape each other's decisions without collaboration. Every escalation by one demands escalation by the other. There is no hatred, only inevitability. Neither man is capable of stopping because stopping would require redefining identity itself. The final collision leaves no victor, it leaves consequence. One man dies fulfilling his code, the other survives stripped of illusion. The world burns because neither could imagine a life beyond pursuit. Their story is the ultimate expression of destructive duality. Two professionals so perfectly matched that the environment cannot absorb their impact. The 1990s did not invent destructive duos, it stripped them of romance. These partnerships did not fail because of fate. They failed because identity was fused to damage. Love became justification. Loyalty became denial. Purpose became addiction.